Hi, this is Tony Martin. You're watching Almost Human SMACKEMAGOB.
SHMACKEMAGOB, everybody. I am so glad and honored to have Mr. Tony Martin. How you doing today, Tony?
Hi, buddy. Thank you. I'm good. I'm good. COVID all being, what it is. We're doing okay. Thank you.
Great. And just to let everybody know, we did this interview last week, and I did not have my camera on, so you will see the interview after we had this little intro here. But just to explain, my camera wasn't on, but it is on now. And we're going to talk about, before we go into the actual interview, there's a couple things that I didn't bring up, and I would like you to bring up too, is your new album Thorns, which we do go into the interview, but there's certain people that were involved in Thorn that wasn't brought up, and I would like for you to talk about the people that are involved in the album Thorn now.
Thank you. It's just to give recognition to the people that were involved in it, really. And I like to do that. And because I just tend to talk, I tend to go past things like that. But, just to recognize some of the names. I mean, for example, Danny Needham, the drummer. Danny's been a friend of mine for 25 years, something like that. And he's the backbone of the whole rhythm thing. I mean, he played on 90% of it, so I'd like to just point him out. Magnus Rosen, the bass player, we kind of touched on in the bulk of the interview, but I've also known him many years, and he's been great, but he only plays on a few of the tracks. I play some of the bass myself, which is really weird, but I'm a multi-instrumentalist, so that's not unnatural for me to sort of do. Most of the guitars were played by Scott McClellan, but I had my son play some guitars on, especially Book of Shadows and songs like that, Crying Wolf. Then Pamela Moore, who kind of did a cameo role, like a guest appearance on Thorns. We sort of briefly touched on Thorns and that subject, but she was great to have along on there. Then Bruno Saar was a keyboard player that I've known, again, for many years, and always wanted him to do something. He's just got magical fingers. This guy, when he hits a keyboard, it just, how do you do that? So I just wanted to give him a mention. But then, that's about really it for the main characters of the story and the album. Everything else was like me and my kids, and especially on the choir, I had my kids in there. So yeah, thank you for letting me correct that. That's very nice to have them noticed.
Yes, definitely. Okay, yeah. Well, there was one question I forgot to ask you on this interview you're about to watch, is that you, other than Ozzy Osbourne and Ronnie James Dio, you are the only other Black Sabbath singer that actually did perform with all three original members.
Mm.
And was that in just South America shows?
Yeah, when they were all together, yes. I'd worked with Geezer Butler. Actually, Geezer Butler was the first bass player that I sort of came across when I first stepped into the band. Before we went to South Africa, before we did Greece, Geezer was the bass player for the rehearsals and stuff like that. So I'd known him a while. But yeah, the time you're talking about, when they had Bill, Geezer, and Tony, that was the only time they were all together. Great guys. I mean, they're just really cool to work with. I mean, Geezer tends to keep himself to himself. He's quite quiet as a person. But Bill is very, you can interact with Bill quite well. I like them all. I think they're great blokes. I really do.
Well, how many shows were there? Do you remember? Was it more than one show?
Yeah, it was the South Americas. So we did like Brazil, Argentina, Chile, there or thereabouts. It would have been 4 4 maybe something shows or something like that. I'd have to get the tour books out and refresh my memory, because it's been a while. But yeah, something like that.
So it was a situation where it was just one-off shows, or was there plans on the original with yourself continuing?
You know what? I think this is again the conversations that go on between the managements. You end up reading between the lines because nobody really knows, and so you're trying to keep track of the story. And they were obviously there for a reason, and I don't know what the conversations were. So whether they were thinking, let's try it and see if it works, then maybe we can do it like a big tour, or maybe they were thinking, you know, we need a few high profile shows. Maybe the promoter had asked, you know, for those guys to be involved. I really don't know. And this is where it comes back to the management thing, you know, and that's important to make the note. Shall I make the note now?
Yes, yes, please do. And this is very important for the interview you guys are about to watch.
Right, because, you know, when I talk and I talk about them or they, it's very often not about the band, it's about the management thing, because Tony Iommi at the time had 3 managers. And they, between them, sort of decided what role was going to be taken by who. The problem is that Tony Iommi has a vision of what he wants, and then he sort of says, talk to Ralph, or talk to Ernest Chapman, or, you know, talk to Phil. And then it would go from him up to them. They would decide what was going to happen. Then they would get in touch with my manager, who would then come down to me and tell me, and then some decision would be made. And then it go back up through my manager across to them. And so my battles, you know, were never really with the band. Tony Iommi's a really, really nice guy, and on top of his game. It's fabulous thing. Most of my battles were with Sabbath management, and they were just hard to work with, and it made it what's the word? It made it stressful, and it was hard work, you know, to keep the thing flowing. So it's just important to make that distinction between, you know, when I'm talking about they or them, it's not really about the band. The band are great, and as I said earlier, you know, after all, Sabbath is the reason that my voice has got noticed to the masses. So there's not much to complain about, really, you know, as far as being in Sabbath, or, you know, the name or anything, or the guys in it. You know, I have a lot to be thankful for. So just wanted to clear that distinction up, you know.
Yeah, so the interview you're about to see, just keep that in mind. It's not
Sure.
more the management. You just didn't specify it during the interview, but when you were talking about they, it was management, not the actual, not Tony or the band.
You probably know yourself that, you know, when you're talking about a thing, you already know. So, you know, it's already in your head. You already know what you're talking about, and you start talking, and you just go, oh, well, he said this and they said that. You know, it's just simply that. It's not a big thing, but I just think it's important to make the distinction, you know, between who you're talking about, because you're reporting the story that I'm telling you. So, you know, it's important to have it right in that respect. I mean, you know, it's my name hasn't been in the States for a while, you know, but I was always more exploited more in Europe and Japan and places than the States. So it's great to have the voice out there and the name back with those guys, because the people we did meet in the States were great, you know.
It has become quite a cult following too in the States.
Yeah.
I've seen, you know, online people talking how many people, there's many that think you were the best Black Sabbath singer. Many people thought you did the best Black Sabbath albums.
Right.
And I'm talking about in the States, you know, so
I never say that myself. I never profess to have been the best Sabbath singer. I think everybody's brought something great to the band. I mean, what a history.
Yeah.
And I love that about bands, don't you know? You know, when you've got so much to talk about and so many twists and turns and stuff, it's fab. But even though people have their favorite singer, and that's cool as well. But, you know, a band like Sabbath, wow.
No, and also it's not a one-off. What is it? 5 albums? Was it 5 you did with them?
Yeah, 6 with the compilation thing, Sabbath Stones, that they put out at the end, which is what kept my name attached to the band, Sabbath Stones, even though it was a compilation of, I think there was even a Ronnie song on there. But that meant my name was still attached to the band right up until 97. So from 86 to 97, it's like 10, 11 years of
Yeah.
association, you know.
And also like the whole IRS thing. I mean, that seems to be a problem as far as re-releasing stuff, because as you said last time, Eternal Idols can get re-released, but that was under Warner Brothers.
Yeah, somebody else owns that.
Yeah.
Tony doesn't own that. Tony Iommi doesn't own that, and he doesn't have the rights to re-release that. But every now and then that pops up. Somebody's re-released it again on some version or other. So you can still get Eternal Idol, but none of the others.
Right.
It is interesting, and politics, band politics, and label politics. It all has a part to play. I was never involved in those conversations. I never got to decide when the album came out, what label they used. That wasn't my pay grade. So there you go. That's the story as I understand it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so. I mean, I asked you. Also, I want to say, and you will see this in the interview. I am a big fan of the Tony Martin era, Black Sabbath, and you are so good in this interview. It's like all the answers that I wanted to know. You're very specific. I mean, this may be the greatest Tony Martin interview that I've seen. I've seen some interviews of yours, but this one you really are specific on a lot of things, and I want to thank you for being very informative in this interview. And I know there's a lot of Tony Martin fans. I told my friends that I interviewed, and they all can't wait to see this. And I told them all, I said, man, everything you want to know, you're an open book, and you didn't shy away from any of my questions, even though my questions weren't controversial or anything. But you really went the extra mile to give me the information that I was curious about, and I thank you for that.
And thank you for the opportunity to getting the thing out there. I mean, you will know probably that there are a lot of books written about Black Sabbath and the story, but nobody has ever told my story. It always tends to get cut out. And so this is one of the small opportunities that I get. And these interviews, as you do them around the world, people have slightly different questions about, the days. And so this is one of the opportunities I get to talk about that, story that's never really been told. It's always been secondhand information, in the Sabbath books and all the material that's come out before, but nobody has ever really told the Tony Martin story. So thank you for that opportunity, and you're welcome.
And thank you. And who better to tell the Tony Martin story than Tony Martin?
I know. I've never even heard of him.
Again, thank you. Now here is the actual interview, and keep in mind what Tony, the setup Tony gave for this interview, how he's talking about management, not band. And thank you again, Tony, for your time. I am honored to have Mr. Tony Martin join me today. How you doing today, Tony?
Yeah, real good. Thank you very much for joining up. How are you?
I'm doing great. I want to congratulate you because I heard your new album, Thorns, and it is amazing.
Very much.
It's very, very heavy, and I'm very familiar with your solo work, like Back Where I Belong and Scream and so on, which was a little more melodic, and this one is much more heavier. I've noticed. What brought you to do this album in this direction?
I mean, I am that kind of beast anyway. I mean, I love the heavy sound. I really enjoy listening to all of the bands that do that kind of thing. I've never really had the opportunity, the right tunes. The game is slightly different each time you work with a different person. And this time it was Scott McClellan, who I kind of accidentally met on Facebook, and he started sending me these heavy riffs, and then he sent me another one, and then another one, and then another one. And by the time I got to 25, I thought, okay, wait a minute, I better have a listen to these riffs. So I did, and it was actually really quite good. So I kind of approached him and said, do you want me to sort of sing on these things? And I did, and he was really quite taken with it, and so I sort of put my mind to it, and that's how it sort of came about, really. I had already started the album, and it was called Book of Shadows, which is one of the tracks on the...
A great track. One of my, probably my favorite off of it, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
And so I'd done Book of Shadows, Crying Wolf, Your Damnation, which is the really weird talking one.
Yes.
And they had been done in a kind of heavy style, but I am a guitarist as well, and so usually the first thing I pick up to write with is an acoustic guitar, and so they ended up being unplugged with like an acoustic. But then when Scott came along, I thought, well, you know, they'll mix, we'll work together. I think these unplugged tracks will work with a heavy sound, so I kind of went with it, really. And that's how it all sort of came together over a long time.
So was this album done before or during or after the pandemic? Well, we're still in the pandemic, but...
We're still in the pandemic.
Yeah.
To be honest, the COVID thing only affected me slightly because I work from my studio anyway, and I've been in my studio for the past 25 years. So it didn't have to go outside. I kind of just stayed put where I was, really. I mean, we've all had our jabs and we wear masks and stuff like that. To us, it's important because we've got a vulnerable family, and my folks are like 90 years old. So to us, it's important. But the COVID thing didn't really affect it, other than some of the guest appearances that I had done by the various people. All that happened really is that they did it in their studio wherever they were, and then posted me their performance. So then I just put it in the track here. I mean, you can do that these days.
Yes.
You know, technology is such that it can do all that stuff. You know, if I had this technology when I was a kid, my God, do you know what I mean? It would have been such a different world. But no, technology means that we can do it via the internet. And when it came to producing it, I'd started with Kit Wolven, but because we couldn't get together, it was really hard work. And so I've eventually found Pete Newdeck, who set up an internet link so I could be live in his studios whilst he was doing it. And then I just got the audio at my studio. So it was perfect. So COVID didn't really set me back too much. Other things set me back. You know, it took like 10 years from the beginning, but then I do sessions and guest appearances and stuff. And so each time, you know, a session came in, the solo album would get put to one side. And then I got married. Stuff just kept happening. So, you know, it kind of just got delayed and delayed and delayed until...
So the genesis of Thorns was pre-pandemic or during it?
Well, a long time pre. I mean,
okay.
Like, you know, 10 years ago.
Oh.
But when I started on Book of Shadows, anyway, it was like 10 years ago. And then as Scott got involved, it sort of developed from there, really.
Well, the video has been getting a lot of positive reception as the world burns, and it's one of the rare times where I didn't see any negative comments when it was posted, because usually everybody bashes everything these days on the internet, and I couldn't find one. Everybody was extremely impressed by As the World Burns, and fortunately I have the whole album, so I got to hear it all. And it is from beginning to end, it has a great heavy vibe to it, and it's just an amazing work, you know.
It is, thank you. And I've noticed that the comments are very welcome, and nobody nobody in this business really expects to get great comments all the time.
Right.
So you kind of expect it. But
were you surprised to get no negative feedback? Because I didn't see one.
yeah. It surprised me too. I was just like, wow, that is so cool. And I do thank everybody. It is very rewarding, you know, to be in that position. So yeah, it is fabulous, really. And it was unexpected, because I'm still sitting there going, somebody's going to slash it. You know, somebody soon is going to come up and rip it apart or something. But no, so far it's been great.
Yeah, I think it hit everybody from left field because they were not expecting something like this.
Right.
You know, from you. But also earlier this year, you released something with Secret Society called Darkest Hour, which is different, but still heavy, but a little more, is it fair to say, like kind of symphonic-y, but heavy?
Gothic. It's gothic.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just out there, gothic, you know. And I love that stuff too. My head is actually a curse. In my brain won't allow me to listen to one kind of music continuously.
Right.
I'm flicking between all kinds of stuff, and you know, that sort of shows in all the guest appearances and the sessions that I've done. I mean, my voice is on 75 albums and projects, something now. And I've worked on everything from reggae through opera to rock. So that session with Secret Society was great for me, and you know, I really enjoyed it, and they're great guys. So, you know, really cool to work with. So I was happy. The only thing I will say is that, you know, when I do these sessions and guest appearances, I have to insist that it sounds like Tony Martin, because there's no point in asking me to do it if you want me to sound like somebody else. So right. I have to go, you know, make sure that I sound like me, and I do know what my voice sounds like. So yeah, that Secret Society thing was very cool. I enjoyed that, and the comments were good on that as well, I think, you know, mostly.
Yes, I do know that, judging from your first solo on Back Where I Belong, there you did have a lot of different type of music on that album. That was departure, other than Jerusalem.
Right, but yeah, that was a kind of Sabbath track. But the thing with Back Where I Belong was it was of the day. You know, 1987, 89, 90. You know, we're still in hair bands.
Right.
You know, like that sort of rock then was very different to what sort of came after. So I was just in the moment, really, in the day. And even Scream was supposed to be part of a trilogy, which was Clean, Mean, and Scream. So one album was supposed to be like Back Where I Belong. One was supposed to be a bit more rocky, and then Scream was supposed to be the heavy one. But it turned out Thorns turned out even heavier than that. So
oh yeah, no, Scream was a very heavy album, but it had a lot of melodic textures to it, and so does this one. But this one's still much heavier with still the melodic. There's a lot of hooks in this, which is not really easy to achieve when it's this type of music that's very heavy.
No, that's right. But that's what I look for. I have to say the melody thing is what I grew up with. I'm a child of the 70s mostly. And melody came across in everything. I mean, even Led Zeppelin, you know, had melody.
Yeah.
You could sing Stairway to Heaven just in the bath. So, you know, you can melody was always a big thing for me. And also when I'm writing, I have to have stories. There has to be a beginning, a middle, and an end. It has to make sense. The lyrics have to be, well, mostly intelligent. It's not always intelligent, but mostly. And the two combinations of, you know, melody and lyrics can come across really strong. So sometimes, even if you haven't got the strongest melody, the lyrics can be really powerful, you know. And that's what I'm known for. So that's what I look out for, and that's what I try to achieve in like everything that I do.
And you were talking about Scream was supposed to be a trilogy. Well, you did actually end up doing a trilogy with Dario Molo with the Cage's albums, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
that was cool stuff, you know. I like
I,
the Cage. Dario
I
is,
loved it. I loved
yeah,
it.
yeah, it's very good. Dario is fantastic. With technical player is just amazing.
Yeah.
Really, really, really cool. And he deserves everything, you know. Dario is a great player. He's actually, this is a little story. He's actually left-handed, but he plays guitar right-handed.
Oh, wow.
And so I said, how do you do that then? And he says, well, think about it. Which is your strongest hand? I said, well, for me, it's my right hand. He said, okay, for me, it's my left hand. And that's where I play all the notes. So, yeah, but yeah, it was great to play with. And the Cage was really good. I'm not sure where else we could have gone with it. I think we came to a natural stop where we was going, okay, what do we do now? And we didn't really know.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Well, I like to go back to the Sabbath days, if you don't mind.
Okay.
There's one thing that I've heard, and I want you to clarify if this is true. When you did the Shining video with Black Sabbath, is it true that the bass player that's on that video was just somebody walking outside and they told him to come in and play bass on the video? Is that true?
Almost, not quite. The guy was actually a friend of the producer that produced Eternal Idol, and he'd been told that we hadn't got a bass player, and to sort of walk by the studio and see if he could get in and have a jam with it. Well, this guy turned up, just kind of walked into the session as we were recording. We didn't know who was going to turn up, and he kind of just stood there. So we said, hello, are you here to play bass? He said, yeah, I'll give it a try. I said, I'm not really a bass player, I play guitar. So he said, do you think you can play bass? And he said, I'll give it a try. Really, really laid back dude, covered in like this turquoise jewelry and stuff, and he swore blind that he was a reincarnation of some American Red Indian or something, I don't know. And so he kind of just stood there and looked like he was playing bass. It wasn't really important because the track was fed to us over the monitors anyway, and we weren't already plugged in doing it as you don't usually when you're doing video. But he sort of played it and then just disappeared. It never got his name or anything, so it was kind of weird. But yeah, he was sort of semi there and semi not there, really.
That is wild. Yeah. So it was a situation where he showed up, did the video, and then left, and you never saw him again.
Nah, never saw him again. Never heard from him. Nobody knows who he is. I know his name's Steve, but apart from that, I have no idea. And do you know what? He's never actually owned up to it either. You would think that, you know, somebody would say, yeah, that was me. I played with Black Sabbath, you know, but he never did. He never owned up to it, never came forward. I mean, you know, I don't know if he's still alive or not. I don't know, who knows? But, you know, that was him anyway.
That is incredible. And now the Eternal Idols was an album that was demoed with Ray Gillen. Then you came in, and it does sound like you, but also at the same time, it's like you don't really venture off to what Ray Gillen did as far as vocal wise, melody wise. It sounds like you, but you're kind of like singing in structure with Ray Gillen. Is it fair to say that?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, they were in a bit of a bind by the time I got there. They'd had a lot of troubles, you know. It kind of started back in '86, and they were with Glenn Hughes, and he was doing the Seventh Star album, and they had some problems with Glenn, and I don't really know what it was, but they put me on standby and said, learn the songs, we might have a gig for you. Well, that scared me to death because I can't sing like Glenn Hughes. Nobody can sing like Glenn Hughes.
Right.
So I was really scared. Then they found Glenn Hughes and said, don't worry, we found him, you're okay. So I stood down, whew, thank God for that. And then he left, and then Ray Gillen stepped in, but then he left to join Blue Murder. Well, by that time, they'd been in Montserrat for like I don't know, a year or something like that. And they'd spent all their time and money and effort building this Eternal Idol up. And then he left to join Blue Murder with John Sykes. And then they called me again and said, okay, you ought to come down for an audition. So I went down to London 16th of May 1987, and they gave me one song to sing, which was The Shining. So I sang it, and they said, okay, we'll contact you. And then 2 days later, on the 18th, they called me up and said, okay, you got the job. You've got a week to finish the album.
Oh, wow. So you did that in a week?
A week? I said, oh, man, a week. So I had to go to the studio back to London. Then I had to learn the songs because they wouldn't give them to me beforehand. And then I tried singing them. Then I did a performance. But they said, don't change anything. Keep the lyrics as they are. Keep the melody as it is. Don't do anything different. Just copy this sort of thing. Well, that was kind of fine by me because, you know, I'd got such a short time to get it done. I hadn't got time to write anything anyway. And so, you know, it was a bit of a blessing that it was already written and the melodies kind of already worked out. So, you know, I went in and did my best, and we got it done. And it was pretty cool, but I was fresh off the bottom of the barrel, mate.
Well, Tony, before Eternal Idols, I did some research. I couldn't find anything. Was there anything that you recorded before you did the Eternal Idols with Sabbath?
No.
Wow.
Well, yeah, local bands. You know, I've done
Right.
some stuff with local bands, but you won't know who they are, and nobody really knows. I was in a band called Orion and a band called The Alliance, which were, you know, on basic record deals, sort of, but nothing the size of Sabbath. So it was like a real leap into the void, really. Ah, and Into the Void, that's a good title for a song. So yeah, it was quite a jump for me. And also, you know, I don't think people forget that Sabs, they were all 10, 12 years older than me. So, you know, I could never catch up with the experience that they had. You know, I was always way like behind them. They'd already done so much stuff. And like, I'm just like, you know, the young brother, if you've got a young brother, if you're 20 years old and you've got a 10-year-old brother, you don't want him around with you. You know? Do I have to take him out? Yes. No. So I was a bit like the young kid that they didn't really want to have along, but they liked my voice, you know. So it kind of worked for them, and it didn't work for them at the same time, really.
Well, the Eternal Idols, yes, it was already written, but there were a couple songs that did not make the album that you did have hand in, like Black Moon and Some Kind of Woman. Am I correct about that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that was done after what was that, for like Japanese bonus tracks or something?
Yeah, in those days, it was still important to have an extra track for Japan, I was told. Basically, the reason was it was so expensive to buy stuff in Japan that they would just import it instead. So to make it like more of a home thing, that they were getting something special, they'd add an extra track. So they did, you know, these extra track things, and that, you're right, I did have a bit of time then to sort of sit and work out some stuff. So yeah, I did Black Moon and what was it? The other one? Some Kind of Woman.
Some Kind of Woman, which is very reminiscent of Van Halen, if you remember that song.
Yeah.
Hot
Yeah.
for Teacher.
Yeah. It was all of the day, you know. It wasn't anything deliberate. It was just of the day.
But then the next album also had Black Moon, a re-recorded version, and here's where you had a lot of credit. Like every song, you had credit on the lyrics. You wrote the lyrics to that whole album?
Yeah, ever since, from Eternal Idiot, we call it the Eternal Idiot, the Eternal Idol. I can tell you that story as well if you like. The Eternal Idol, from there onwards, is all me, my melodies and lyrics.
Okay, including Cross Purposes when Geezer came back.
Yeah, I asked him, you know, I said, Keith, if you want to put some lyrics to this, or if you want to, you know, strike up a melody or something, just let me know. I said, I'm happy to give it a try. You know, if I can make it work with my voice, I'll give it a go. No, it's all right. You do it, mate. All right. Okay.
Yeah, it is an infamous story that when Dio came into the band, he just didn't want to write lyrics anymore. So I guess it carried on.
Yeah, I don't know what his reasons were, but he was happy to let me do it. And in fact, you know, when he come on Cross Purpose, he just said that's the best album I've ever worked on. That's what he said at the time, anyway.
Well, and isn't it amazing that how much now these albums that you appeared on with Black Sabbath are much more respected now than they were back in the day. I mean, it's hard to get. I mean, is there any? I know Tony talked about working on Forbidden again, but is there any talk of these being re-released? Or is it IRS that's holding it back?
No, you know what? The short answer is I really don't know. I mean, I truly, really don't know. But the way it worked out was 4 years ago. In fact, the keyboard player Jeff Nichols died 4 years ago, and I met Tony at Jeff's funeral service, and he said at the time, I have got loads of stuff to play. We should see if we can do something new, and then maybe we can re-release the albums and put some extra tracks on it. Whoopee, I thought, wow, okay, yeah, fine, let's have a go. The phone went dead, as it usually does with Black Sabbath. They're very hard to get information out of. It's always been like that ever since the first day I joined. But the phone went dead, and then about a year later, I phoned him and said, are you doing anything with this or what? And he said, yeah, come over and see me. So I went over to his house, and he said, we can't do it. I said, oh, okay. I said, what is that then? He said, well, I'm not allowed to record anything new or release anything new under the Black Sabbath name.
Oh.
They've got this thing tied up where nobody other than the 4 original members can produce any sounds or anything under the Black Sabbath name. Thus, you will remember probably not long ago that Dio did a thing with them and they called it Heaven and Hell.
Yeah.
But similar type of thing to that. So I said, okay, so what now then? He says, well, all we can do really is remaster the stuff that we've already got. I said, okay. And he said, maybe if we've got any tracks that we didn't release, but we recorded, maybe we could include those. So I said, okay. So then I started looking through the tapes and cassettes and all the rest. So I found a few, sent them off to him. Then the phone went dead again for another 3 years.
Oh.
And now I literally have no idea, not a clue. I mean, I wish I could tell you more. You probably know more information than I do.
Yeah, I think I know as much. I mean, I heard Tony wanted to fix up Forbidden. That's the last thing I heard.
Yeah.
And there was talk of them releasing all the albums again, but like what you were saying, maybe remaster them. But I am not sure about that. But it's a shame because they are really, really great albums and very respected now by a lot of people that can't get a hold of them.
Yeah. Well, the reason you can't get hold of them is because they took them off the market. They're not in the catalogue, the Black Sabbath catalogue at all. The only one that still is in the Black Sabbath catalogue is Eternal Idol, and that's because it's owned by somebody else. There's some
Warner Brothers
somewhere, or some, you know, whoever's got the rights to that one. They can release Eternal Idol, but the others, everything else since, they haven't got even a record deal for it, so it's not on the market, and that's why you can't get them. I mean, there are second-hand ones kicking around, and maybe leftover stock, you know, from the odd store somewhere, but no, you can't get it.
And those are very, very expensive.
Yeah.
Luckily, I bought them all when they were new. I mean, my favorite is Tire. I really love. I feel that album is very epic sounding. It's a little bit of a departure from what Sabbath done, but it's just an amazing album. I mean, I look back at that one as my favorite one of your era.
Well, the way it was going, because that was Cozy Powell, and Cozy had done Headless Cross as well, and the way it sort of started off, once Cozy joined, I thought, okay, lyrically, I'd had a little chance to think about what I was going to do with Black Sabbath because, well, Dio had sort of mastered the whole fantasy rock type thing. Brilliantly done. It's just you can't go there because Dio did it so well. So I wasn't going to try and copy that. And I thought, okay, what do I do? So I came up with the idea of like themes of a kind. So Headless Cross was like English history, and I'm really interested in all this historical stuff. And so I sort of researched it and did as much as close as I could to that subject. And then Tyr was like Viking mythology. And if it had kept going, I was thinking, well, hey, you know, you could do samurai warrior theme. You could do even the native Red Indian American thing. You know, you could pull a lot of stories out of that. But keeping the darkness about it, which is what Sabbath is, really. But it stopped after Tyr, so I didn't get a chance to sort of continue that idea. But yeah, it is very much a theme thing with me on those albums, anyway.
It's almost like Tyre is like pretty much it's a concept album, but some songs aren't. Am I correct on that?
Yes, I mean the other thing you have to remember is that from the Dio era, Jeff Nichols had really changed the way that Sabbath worked because he was providing keyboard pads and atmosphere, which then Tony Iommi could play over. So he was exploring all kinds of layers of guitars, layers of keyboards. And then when I joined, we started doing harmonies, layers of harmonies, and it all got very technical. And Tyr was kind of almost assembled in the studio rather than in rehearsals. The basic thing was worked out in rehearsal, but we sort of built on it in the studio, and then all the voices started getting added. We come to do it live, and we went, hang on, I'm the only singer here. So who's going to sing all these voices then? So we had to sort of improvise, and we started using samplers for all the choruses and like backing vocals and stuff like that, triggered from Jeff Nichols. And he was singing as well a little bit, but it became a very technical thing, which is why, and I do understand why, you know, some of the original Sabbath fans think that, you know, the basic 4-piece Sabbath is, you know, the original where it sort of came from, where it should be. And after I was fired, I think that was the only place they could go. You know, to get Ozzy back was probably well, I'm sure it is the right thing to do. You know, couldn't get another singer and then develop another sound. So, you know, I think it all worked out, you know, for the right reasons. But yeah, Tyr was quite a technical thing.
And to go back on Headless Cross, the song Nightwing is like one of my favorite vocal performances you've done. And am I correct by saying that you wanted to redo it and you and Cozy had it out and then you went and redid it and turned out you used the first take after all?
Yep. It was really weird. I mean, I'm still trying at that point. I'm still trying to impress the guys, you know, in many ways. Who is this singer anyway? But I was trying and trying and trying. Anyway, I did the first take for Nightwing, and Cozy Powell was sort of directing everything at the time. And Cozy went, right, that's cool. Well done, chap. And I went, what? No, I've got to do it again. No, that's fine. It's good. We got it. Said, no, you don't understand. I have to do it again. He went, no, you're not doing it again. I said, come on, man. I got to do it again. That's not it. He went, you're not doing it again. And we had this little fight from the control room to the studio. And he said, look, okay, I'll let you try 2 more takes. And if you can better this, we'll use it. He said, but you won't. So I said, okay, thank you. Right, cool. So run it again. So I run it again. And I couldn't. I couldn't do it. whether he put me off or something, I don't know what happened, but I just couldn't better it. So he ended up saying, I told you, right, and that's the one they used.
Well, are you happy with it? Because I think it's phenomenal.
Oh, if I look back on it now, I think actually, you know what, that was pretty cool. And
Right.
but that's, this is what I was saying earlier on. They had 10, 12 years experience ahead of me, that I didn't understand really. So, their word, you had to take their word for it because, I'm a nobody and they're everybody. I mean, this is Black Sabbath we're talking about with Cozy Pal. It was an amazing experience, and I wish I'd had the chance to enjoy it more, but I was so worried about doing the right thing and not getting into trouble. But but
So,
yeah.
So then they brought Dio back. They did Dehumanizer. Was there a point in that recording that Dio left and you came back in? Because I heard something about that as well.
Yeah, actually, that happened really quick. I was quite surprised. No, they fired me, which, by the way, was a complete surprise. I didn't see that coming at all. In fact, I was walking out of the door to go to rehearsals for the next album, and the phone rang just as I was leaving the door, and my manager was on. He said, "You better sit down, kid." I went, "Go on, what?" And he said, "They don't want your services anymore." So, what? You're kidding me? I just didn't see that coming at all. So, wow, okay. And I was just so shocked by it. I didn't know what to say, do, or anything. So, but within weeks, it was about, I don't know, it was 4, 5, 6 weeks, maybe, something like that. I got a call from Tony Iommi saying, "This isn't going very well." That was Dio. I said, "Oh, really?" He says, "No, can you come back?" And I went, no, I can't come back. I've already started doing like my solo stuff and that. I moved on. No, okay. So then a few months went by and he called me again and said, "You sure you can't come back? It's really not working." So they invited me to go to the studio when they were recording the stuff. So I went down there and I did try to get some melodies and stuff on it, but they were short of time as usual. And I said, "Look, if I'm going to do this, I need to rewrite like this whole thing. I need to take it away and sit with it, work it out." And he said, "We don't have the time for that." I said, "Okay, well, I'm going to have to leave it with you. And probably the best thing to do is just, continue with Dio and then we'll talk afterwards." So even through the Dio period, there was connections and I was still talking to Tony. And in fact, I went to the show in my hometown with Dio. Actually, Dio wasn't pleased at all to see me there. Because obviously Tony Iommi had invited me, and of course Dio comes off stage and I'm stood backstage. He was not impressed with that at all. So there was a connection going through the Dehumanizer thing pretty much most of the way through it, but not in a constant way, but on and off.
What did you record any demos during that Dehumanizer return?
Yeah, I did try. I just couldn't get anything that was going to sound better than what they'd done. So, and I have to make it sound like, as I said earlier, I have to make it sound like Tony Martin. There's no point in asking me to do it if you don't want me to sound like me. So at that point, I was kind of thinking, well, I don't really want to just keep, copying people's stuff. So
right.
I said, look, I did try and I did put some demos down, but I doubt very much. In fact, I'm 99% certain there's nothing left of what I've got. A couple of brief cassette copies of something I tried, but it's really horrible quality, just a cassette thingy. It just reminds me of the day, but yeah, I did try. I did give it a go, but I don't think I could better really what they'd done. So we sort of moved on really.
All right, so then Dio's out, and you come back for cross purposes, and I'm sure it's much more comfortable because now you have, you know, all you can write all the music, you can write all the, I mean, all the lyrics. You feel more at home now with Cross Purposes, right? Was that a better vibe coming back?
Yeah, I mean, it was very cool working with Geezer. I mean, obviously I've met Geezer before, and it was just really cool having him on board. The atmosphere is great, you know, when the guys are together and they're doing their thing. It's really cool, you know. It's a nice thing to do, and so I just got on with it really, and they let me get on with it. They didn't hinder me at all.
Yeah.
So I just got on with it and did it, and it turned out great, I thought.
Oh, I love that album. One of my favorite songs didn't make the album. What's the Use is one of my favorites on that album.
Oh, you like that?
Oh, you didn't like that one? I love that one.
Okay, well, yeah, What's the Use? It was almost a bit of a throwaway track, and I kind of like it. I love the riff in it. I wasn't convinced I had the right lyrics on it. My brain being like the perfectionist brain that I've got, I wasn't quite sure about it. But yeah, it's a good enough track. But, you know, like you say, it wasn't used.
Yeah, well, Cross of Thorns is probably my favorite off it, and I understand that idea came from hanging out with friends at a pub. Was that am I right about that? That came from Cross of Thorns?
No,
No?
the idea came. I'd worked with Cozy Pal's Hammer, and we were in Ireland, and we were on the road being driven around by a promoter. And at the time, the Irish situation was pretty bad. I mean, you know, I don't know if you know much about the history of all that Irish and English thing, with the IRA and everything. And so we're English guys traveling through, you know, Republican Ireland, and I was thinking, oh my lord, this could turn out, you know, not well if we do something wrong. So I was talking to this guy, and I said, what's it like, you know, living here? He said, what do you think it's like? It's like wearing a cross of thorns. And I went, ooh, that's a great title for a song. So I took that away. Like carrying a cross of thorns, that's what he said, not wearing. Like carrying a cross of thorns. So, wow, that like really says something to me, and so that's where the title came from. And then I kind of just developed it from there.
So what were the lyrics of Cross of Thorn have to do with the IRA or
No,
just the title?
not really about the IRA. It's just the inspiration that you get sometimes from something, and it can put you in a zone, and the zone can take you anywhere. And so it was definitely a song of tension. You know, don't come closer because it ain't safe here. You're already in the zone as soon as those lines sort of hit you, and then you want to know why it's not safe. So, you know, I was really pleased with the title and the place that I got it. So I just ran with that really.
And Eyewitness, was that about the movie of the Amish?
Kind of. It was about the religious belt across the states. I mean, it was not about anybody in particular, and I do try not to mention names when I'm writing lyrics. I think it's important not to single it out, you know, too much, because once you've got a focus that tight on, you know, once you mention somebody's name, or it's about our person, or it's about our thing, then you're stuck. You know, it's hard to get it. There is a certain element, and I know all rock bands say this, you know, you like people to take their own, you know, inspiration and their own sort of feeling about it. But it was about the, you know, the religious belt across the states, and there is an element in that, but nothing particular about any, you know, group or person. It was just the feel that you get from that subject, you know.
Okay. And also there's talk that he wasn't credited on the song Evil Eye, but they said that Eddie Van Halen wrote some of the riffs and played on it, because it sounds like Tony to me.
Yeah, on the record, it's Tony.
Oh, okay.
In the writing session, yeah, Eddie Van Halen was in town, and Tony Iommi, being Tony Iommi, said, "Why don't you come along for a jam?" So in walks Eddie Van Halen. Wow, dude, what a dude! He's just a great. Well, he was a great dude. Obviously, he's passed away now, but and I recorded it. Well, up until recently, I thought that was the only recording of it, and then I found it on YouTube, like even just today. And I think it's the version that I recorded in the writing session, and I sent that off to Tony Iommi to sort of say, look, we've got this, you know, we could add this to any re-releases and stuff. And then I didn't hear anything else, and then it appeared on the internet. So I don't know what happened there, but it was great, you know, to have Eddie playing on it and his take on it. But then on the final cut, Tony did the solos because Eddie wasn't in town then.
So he did write some of the riffs on that song?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, he kicked it off with, but you know how Eddie is, like, or maybe, he's wild, you know, and he's like writing stuff. He's all over the place, and you get, whoa, where's this going? And of course, Iommi is very much, he's like a tank. He's just like solid and keeps going. So the two of them together was just amazing. It was really, really great. But yeah, Eddie wrote mostly the idea, and then Tony refined it and then played it on the track.
Wow, very interesting. Yeah, that was a rumor I heard. I wasn't exactly sure if that was true. Then Forbidden, how was the vibe of that album?
Ugh.
Yeah.
Okay. We have to go. Where do we go? We'd gone on tour and we'd done some stuff, and it was starting to feel a bit like a job, and you don't want music to feel like that. It's just, you know, you want to be enjoying yourself and doing whatever, but it was getting I don't know, like distant. The guys in the band were getting distant and they weren't talking. Tony sort of locked himself away. Geezer locked himself away. I used to go out and about. I mean, like I said, I'm 10, 12 years younger than the lad, so being young and foolish, I was always getting out and sort of getting into trouble of some kind, and they weren't impressed with that either. And it was just getting a bit distant. So by the time we come to do Forbidden, we were already, you know, a bit like lethargic about it. Well, Cozy was in the studio and we had a bit of a laugh in joking about in the rehearsals and writing and stuff, and I thought, oh, wait a minute, this is actually getting good again. And we sort of went along with it, and then all of a sudden this suggestion came from somewhere. I'm not sure if it was management or Tony, and just suddenly this suggestion that they were going to get Ice-T to sing on it. And we were like, no, can't possibly work. No. Are you sure? Yeah, we're going to get Ice-T. So how's that going to work then? I said, well, Ernie C is going to come over. I have to say they're great guys. Really, really nice guys. But Ernie C came over and then he started telling Cozy Powell how to play drums.
Oh, no.
And Cozy Powell saying, right, okay, I'll try it for you. He said, but you know, it's going to be me that's playing it, and it's going to sound like Cozy Powell. Yeah, okay, but like if we can just throw a few ideas your way. So Cozy Powell said, look, this isn't going to work. And I said, I don't think it's going to work. Then suddenly there was a meeting called in London. So we all ended up in an office in London, and they were saying, look, this is going to happen. Regardless of what you sort of feel about it, it is going to happen. How do we make it work, kind of thing? So we went back into the studio. Ernie C came in again and started directing it. Okay, so we hit this sound, this idea of the way it was going to be. But then it started to go cold again, and I couldn't get any confirmation from them if I was actually going to be singing. I had no idea. I was getting this impression that I was going to be not going to be in the band. And so I kept contacting them and saying, am I actually doing this or what? And they were saying, well, yeah, just keep going, and we'll decide, who's singing what later. I'm going, well, that's completely useful.
Yeah.
It just doesn't give me any clue at all about, it doesn't make me feel confident, and I'm starting to lose it now, like the interest. I mean, and then we got to the actual studio to record this, and I said, look, who's singing what? Am I just doing this as a guide for, like, Ice-T to come and sing it? Is he singing one song? Is he singing 5 songs? Is he singing all of them? Am I singing anything? And they said, well, yes, keep going. We haven't decided. This is what they actually wrote back to me and said, we haven't decided what format the band is going to be in. And I went, what does that mean? What format of the band is it? So now I'm thinking, okay, I'm heading for being fired again here, something like that. So I just couldn't concentrate. I couldn't put any feeling into it. I couldn't get the vibe on it. I'd written some lyrics, and I was trying to write more lyrics, and I just couldn't get into it at all. And so for me, set against that background, it was really hard. I didn't get into it at all. And so Forbidden for me is the album that, I don't know, shouldn't have really happened for me, but they were in a record deal with IRS anyway, and they had to finish that deal, so it was going to happen. What I think they were trying to do is the Run DMC thing, like with Aerosmith,
Right.
That kind of thing. That's what I think they were trying to achieve. But it's Black Sabbath, man.
Yeah.
No. It's just I didn't think it would happen, and to me it didn't. But there are fans out there that love it. That Forbidden album is still spoken of quite often, and people contact me all the time saying that they love it. So, okay, well, fair enough.
Well, I love Rusty Angels in the title track. I think those two were really good songs.
Yeah.
Was there
Angels.
actual talk of Ice-T becoming their singer? Did you hear anything about that?
They never explained to me.
Okay.
And I was left pretty much in the dark right the way through. And then, of course, once the tour had started, then it was just really cold and distant, and nobody was really talking to each other. So it just kind of drifted away apart from there, really. But Rusty Angels, yeah, that's a cool track. I like that one. That was actually about a place in the desert somewhere you guys have got, where they keep all the military planes that they take them to, they take them out of commission and they store them. And so it's about warplanes that have been decommissioned, really. Rusty Angels.
Wow. Well, so I want to thank you so much for your time, and I know we've been here almost 50 minutes. I just want you to let everybody know when is the new album Thorns coming out? Do you know?
Well, it's out on the 14th of January. I mean, if I can, I would just like to talk about Scott McClellan a little bit.
Yes.
The guy who sort of started the whole heavy thing off for me with this album. He's a really, really amazing guy, player, person to work with. Everything that you could sort of want with a collaborator in music. He is mostly an unknown to most people. No, they won't sort of know where he's from. A bit like me when I first joined Sabbath. So I have this like connection with him in some ways, that he's doing with me what I did with Sabbath, and he's such a great player. He's so easy to work with, and he's got this thing where he gives every riff a name. So instead of like with Tony Iommi, for example, we'd go to his house and we'd get all the cassettes out and the tapes and stuff and looking for riffs to work on. With Scott, he gives everything a name, so I instantly know what he's talking about, which is quite different. The other thing is he lets me cut up the songs, the tracks and stuff, so that I can put a verse here, a chorus there, wherever I need it to be. And the whole working collaboration has been really smooth and fabulous. So I just want to mention Scott and just keep an eye on him, because I think he's got, you know, places to go. I really do. I mean,
how did you discover Scott?
well, he kind of discovered me on Facebook. So,
Okay.
like, you know, once he started sending me things and I started singing on them, then it kind of built up from there. But he's over in Illinois somewhere. Can't remember the name of his hometown, but he's American lad. So, you know, he's homegrown for you guys. But he's really, really cool. And it's been a pleasure working with him on this. So I just wanted to give him a mention, along with the other guest, you know, people that we've got on there as well. Pamela Moore is on there. She's one of your girls.
Yeah.
You know, lots of stuff going on it. It's been a real pleasure to work on. So the album comes out on January the 14th. Mostly digital and streaming download and stuff like that. But there will be a vinyl coming out later. There was too many tracks to put on a vinyl, and we didn't want to take any off. So the label said, "Why don't you write some more, and we'll release a double vinyl later on." So you know, that'll come later. But
is there a band intact? Do you plan on doing any touring for this?
Oh man, okay. Like I said at the beginning, I've been in the studio for the past 25 years working on sessions. That's where my career took me. You know, I've been happy with that, and that's where I've earned my living, and it's been my thing, which means I don't have a band. I have to hire the musicians when I go out on tour. And that's always been an awkward thing for me. You know, you have to hire the musician. If they're available, if they're not available, then you have to find somebody else. Sometimes the promoter will find you a band, but then you don't know them, and maybe you get one rehearsal before you go play with them or something like that. So it's never really worked for me, the live thing. And if I said to the labels, if I do this live, it's got to be something substantial, something, you know, worked out and stable. It can't just be a collection of people, you know, on and off, drifting in and out. It's got to be a thing, plus a show, and that's going to take time to work out. Plus COVID is sort of stopping us from doing any planning, and we can't really get together with anybody at the moment. So all in all, it doesn't look good for this year, and I don't think 22 is going to work either. Possibly 2023, but I've already started writing another album with Scott. So hey, what if we record another album and then the two albums together? I don't know. I don't know. It's all things that we're talking about, but I can't see anything happening in the short term. We'll have to wait and see, of course, and hopefully we can get something sorted out. What I will say is I would love to come out on tour. If I ever get the chance to do it properly, I would love it. I mean, I do miss the live thing. Just studio work became my thing, you know, over the past year. So that's the way my career went. But I would love to come out and do it, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully you can get Scott when the tour, if the tour actually does happen.
It makes sense. I mean, you know, Scott is the guy that sort of brought this heavy thing upon me. It sounds like a curse, but he sort of lent his style to this, and I really would like to have him on board. The other person that is pretty stable is the drummer. So you know, it makes sense to bring him with me as well. Bass players, keyboard players, it depends on the music we sort of play. You know, if we're doing Sabbath stuff, we'd need a keyboard player. There's not much keyboards on Thorns. There's one solo in Book of Shadows,
yeah,
which you could do on a guitar synth, but you know, you'd probably need a keyboard player. So it's all to be worked out. And for me, that means starting from scratch because I don't have a band, you know, per se. So I'd have to work it out and try and make it all happen.
Well, I hope it does, and I hope
yeah,
you tour the States, you know.
I do as well. I would love to get back out there. I mean, it's been so long, and I've had a pretty good relationship with America, if not of longevity. But you know, people have been pretty cool out there with me, and I got no problem coming back to the USA. So fingers crossed. Let's see what we can get together and move on with that. You know.
Yeah, I did have the honor to see you once on the Cross Purposes tour. You were touring with Motorhead and Morbid Angel, and you played South Florida.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I went to that show, and I was very happy to see that Sabbath Bloody Sabbath finally made a set list, because that's a song that's never been played live, even when it was first released. So it was great to see.
I made a problem for myself, really, again, because I was young and foolish. I sort of said to them, any song, just bring it on. And so they started throwing all of these, you know, songs that they'd never played before. We did Changes. I was the first Black Sabbath singer to sing Changes live on stage. Ozzy'd never done it before either. And yeah, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, and all sorts of stuff they kept bringing out. So, all right, then try this one. Yeah, I can do it. Try this one. Okay.
The Wizard was another.
The Wizard, yeah, with the harmonica. I still have the harmonica.
You still got it. Well, the show I was at, you threw your harmonica out to the audience. So
yeah, well, because there is a reason for that. Is because I used to suck so hard on the damn thing, it would bend the reeds, and then it would go out of tune. So then I was just useless then. So I just throw them away.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much. And one last thing before, I just want to let you know that since 2010, a Christmas tradition in my household is we always play "Who Put the Devil in Santa." That is such a great Christmas song.
Thank you. I did ask the labels this year, should we put it out, and they went, not sure. Let's have a think about that. And so there was, you know, a fair few people that was thinking, yeah, well, we could try, but to be honest, we ran out of time. By the time I'd got the masters to them, it was really short. It was only a couple of weeks ago, so I don't think they had a chance to run it with. So maybe next year we might get that out, but that is really just a bit of fun.
That is a hilarious song. The lyrics, I love the lyrics, how they have the same letters as Satan, Santa.
Yeah. Santa is same letters as Satan. Yeah. This is what I was telling you about earlier on about my head being a curse. All kinds of music. It's you know, I will happily try anything as long as it's good. You know, as long as it is professional and it stands up. I don't care. So that was one of those. It just came out one day, and I thought, oh, that's pretty cool.
And also, just if you haven't seen it, you must see the lyric video to "As the World Burns." It is it's a barn burner. It's an amazing song. So is the whole album. The whole album. I think every song in this album is really great.
Thank you. I do appreciate it. I really do. And it feels like it's a good product. You know, I feel like we've pulled the best out of it that we could. Don't think we could have done any better with it. The video for As the World Burns isn't quite what the story is. The story is slightly different, but that's the way they interpreted it. But it's still a great looking video. And,
it's amazing, amazing visuals on that video.
I know it is fabulous what they can do these days, and I am a child of technology. I love it. If I can, you know, if I can appreciate it, then most people could. But yeah, it's great.
Hopefully there'll be some more videos or singles released from this, because
yes, you know, to be honest, I think that's the only thing we can do, because we can't get out touring. So I think the best way to sort of promote this, usually you'd take the album out and tour it and get longevity out of it that way. But I think the only thing we can do is crack on with some videos and try and portray it that way and keep people's interest in it that way. It would be a shame for it to die away. So I am talking to Scott at the moment actually about which ones we do and how we go about it. It's going to have to be remote, you know, because of COVID. Even if my country says it's okay to travel, then your country might say, oh, no, you're not coming here. So, you know, we have to do everything remotely, and that's probably the way to assemble a video at the minute. So we'll do what we can anyway, and put as much together as we can.
Well, if I may put in a little input that probably doesn't matter, I would say Black Widow, Angel, and Book of Shadows should be released as well.
I had a great idea for Book of Shadows, using a street choir who, I mean, the choir on the track is quite gothic and a bit Gregorian chanty, but you imagine having like a load of kids off the street going and singing it. That'd be fab.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I shall bear your suggestions in mind.
Okay, great. And again, I can't thank you enough. It's been an honor speaking with you. And thank you so much for your time, and much success with Thorns.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Have a good day, Tony.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.